Hey guys, what is up? We're just going to get right into this Call Her Daddy interview with Catherine McBroom, or no, excuse me, Catherine Pies, with Alex Cooper from Call Her Daddy. And let's just dive right into it. So Alex Cooper, she asked Catherine, it's been almost 2 years, so why now? And Catherine responds, now it's the time to come out because she feels free. She feels healed. She's felt silenced for so long. And she does make it a point to state that she was the one that was silencing herself. And now she feels that it's time. And Alex, in this interview, she seriously wasted no time asking all the hardcore questions that we all wanted to know. And she just dives right in. Austin, he recently came out with 1 million of Snapchats after he found out that Catherine was coming out with a book, right? And Catherine, she's coming out with a book about her life. Catherine, she states that she's always felt like she was never able to express herself. And Alex, she's asking Catherine, how do you feel about Austin putting down your book? And Catherine responds that she was always afraid to say that she was an idiot. She was embarrassed. And before they really get into it, Alex says take it back a step and then talks about Catherine's background just a little bit. So I'll just cover it real quick before we get to the juicy stuff. So Catherine does state that her mom is from Nicaragua. Her dad is Panamanian. They met when they were teenagers. Her parents, they always had a toxic relationship. Her mom ended up leaving the relationship eventually and moved to Florida. Catherine always wanted that traditional marriage that she never saw from her parents. And she always felt like, she needed to stay married, needed to stay committed. Catherine does admit that she sucked at communicating in her relationship with Austin and says that she's still working on that. So Alex, she then asks Catherine, well, how did you and Austin meet? And Catherine, she says that, she moved out here to LA, brought a one-way ticket. Her friend ended up inviting her to a party. That's when her friend introduced her to Austin. A month later, Austin ended up hitting her up on Twitter. At first, she didn't respond, but then Austin ended up asking her out on a date eventually, and she did respond. They ended up going to a sushi place, which they both hated sushi, I guess, but they ended up going anyways. Austin, it was his senior year of college. He was playing basketball. His dream was to become a professional basketball player. Catherine dives into how their relationship happened so fast, which is something I didn't know. After 2 months, y'all, that's when Catherine found out she was pregnant. And she even shares she found out she was pregnant when literally the night before they had gone out to dinner with Austin's friends and they were celebrating Austin's friends being pregnant. And they even had a conversation literally the night before they found out that she was pregnant. They had a conversation about, having a family and if he wanted any kids. And he said he definitely wanted kids. He said he wanted to start a family with Catherine. So how Catherine explains it the next day, they're lying on the bed and she's like, I feel sick. And he's like, you should take a pregnancy test. So I guess they had a pregnancy test lying around. Anyways, Catherine took the pregnancy test. She saw a faint line and that was that. Catherine explains that it was a really great feeling that day because she was so happy with Austin's response to everything. She went to bed that night with no worries. She even explains how she knew from their first date that he was the one. She was going to end up having kids with him. She was going to end up marrying this guy. And she even shares how their first kiss, they both said, I love you. He said, I love you first. And she immediately was like, I love you back. So, it was a cute beginning. So then we dive into how they started the YouTube channel. So Catherine, she finds out she's pregnant. Austin, it's still his senior year of college. He has a roommate. Catherine moves in with Austin. And I guess at the time they were doing these little videos that they were posting on Facebook. And the roommate at the time was like, you guys should start a YouTube channel because a lot of the videos that you guys are posting on Facebook is being monetized. People are actually making money off of your videos. So you might as well do the same. Catherine then goes on to share that, Yes, it was Austin's dream to become a professional basketball player, but he got mixed up with the wrong agent. And long story short, they had a decision on whether Austin was going to be playing overseas in Greece or start a YouTube channel. They could probably, make money doing that. And so they decided to start a YouTube channel. So then that's when Alex, she does ask Catherine, whose idea was it to put your daughter into the videos? And Catherine's response was that it just came naturally. She said that she felt like her family pioneered the way. Their family was the first family to really start a family vlog channel and to make it to what it is. And so at the time, everything was very pure. What social media is today was not what it was when they first started, Catherine says. Catherine even states that she hates to think what family vlogging has become now, that they are responsible for all of it. And that's when Alex, she does ask Catherine, a lot of people think that you exploit your children. What's your response to that? And Catherine, she does dance around it a little bit, saying, in the beginning it was very pure. Like we never thought what social media was back then is what it would have been today. But Catherine does eventually answer, and she does state that, we're in the age of technology and that there is no right or wrong here. If families want to post their children online, she feels like that's their lives, that's okay. And it's also okay if they want to keep their children offline and live privately. She doesn't think there's a right or wrong answer here. And then the juicy question here. The juicy question was, on a good month, how much were they making? And by no surprise, Catherine responds that they made like 7 figures a month. 7 figures. Oh, I would love to make $1 million a month. And Catherine says that she was very numb to it and it didn't make any sense. Catherine says that basically, if she can go back, she would do it all over again and have the right tools. She just felt like when they made all that money at the time, that they had a lot of yes men and they just didn't have the right resources around them. She said that she would have bought her mom a house, like she would have bought her family homes, like she would have saved more. There's just a lot of things you could tell she would have done differently. She goes on to say that she wished she would have had a better mentor. And then Alex, she does bring up to Catherine, at what point did it start feeling like you were living life just to create content? And Catherine responds, it wasn't until she gave birth to her second child. It was the first time where it was a big moment for them that she just did not feel like filming. But she felt like she had a responsibility to the people that watched their videos. And she just wasn't in the headspace to film giving birth. They did it, but it was the first time she felt like she was living life for the camera and not really enjoying that moment. There's also this reoccurring theme with Catherine throughout this interview where she consistently brings up how numb she felt, how empty she felt at the time. And that's when Alex, she asked Catherine, were there any moments in your relationship with Austin where you felt like there needed to be conversations about, we could have this topic private and we can keep this subject to the public? And Catherine responds, not really. We never had a conversation about keeping certain things private. In Catherine's book, Alex brings up that Catherine does write that Austin made a lot of financial decisions without asking Catherine. And it's so strange because a lot of people felt that way, but to hear Catherine explain how she knew how much money they were making and she would just go into their account and see 6 figures gone. And Alex is like, well, did you ask Austin where that money went? And Catherine's like, yeah, of course. And he would say, oh, I just didn't want you to worry, or yada, yada, yada. And I was just watching through the screen. And when I heard Catherine's response to all of this, I was watching through the screen like, oh, that would irritate me to see 6 figures gone out of their joint bank account and there's no conversations about it. And then that's when we dive into the conversation of Catherine losing their home. And this was also a tough listen because if you don't know, Catherine and Austin, they did lose their home and Catherine blamed it on the certificate of occupancy. And it was strange because how Catherine tells the story is that her father-in-law, Austin's father, called her and was like, hey, it's all over the news. You're going to be losing your home. You only have like 30 days to get out. And Catherine's like, what? I've been paying the mortgage for 3 years. Like, what do I have to pay? What do we have to do? And that's when her father-in-law says that, you guys had a jumbo loan. So there's nothing you guys can do. You have to move out of the home. Catherine would tell herself that everything was going to be okay as long as her kids are healthy and she has a roof over her head, and now she didn't even have that. And that's when she gets asked, when the cameras were off, how are you in Austin genuinely? And no shocker here, but Catherine sadly responds that she was in a really dark place because she felt like so many people wanted things from them. And so she felt like when there were no cameras, she just wanted to feed her babies, scroll through her phone and not do too much. Didn't see her mom, her friends much. She just felt really depressed. And you can hear the reoccurring theme here. She felt very numb. She was just numb to it all. She felt like her and Austin, they were just not really living life anymore. They were living this fake life. And then that's when we dive into the cheating allegations. So Alex, she's asking all the questions. I'm so shocked that she went for it with this interview because she's like, all right, so when did you first find out that Austin cheated on you? And it's so sad because Catherine's first response to all of this is, well, I don't recall like the very first time. That's what she initially had said in the beginning, because she goes, there were so many. But she does recall a time where after giving birth to her second child, it was 6 months, and Austin said that he had a business trip. He needed to go to Miami. And she recalls him going to Miami and even her mom saying something along the lines of, you're 6 months with your second child and I wouldn't want my husband to be going to Miami and I don't know exactly what he's doing. She just recalled her mother having worries about what was happening. But anyways, she ignored it, and Catherine didn't think much of it because she goes on to say that she's such a free person. She wants her husband to do whatever, not cheat, but, she wants him to live his best life, have fun, go on business meetings, do what's best for him, right? So she never really thought about it. But Catherine does recall a moment that on this trip when Austin went to Miami, he accidentally butt dialed her. Catherine said she heard women in the background and she didn't really think much of it, but she did recall Austin kept calling her and she just felt off about it, how he just kept calling her and checking up on her. And then later down the line, a makeup artist came out on social media and stated how Austin, he cheated on Catherine in Miami. Catherine goes on to state that she didn't actually watch this video, but her friends told her about it. And she goes on to say it was a blonde male makeup artist. At this time, she was pregnant, so she was going through a lot of emotions. And she did think, oh my gosh, is Austin cheating on me? So it was a lot to process for her, but her initial response was to defend her family. When Catherine confronted Austin with these allegations, he just said, in this business, you're going to get a lot of people lying on you. And that's when Catherine tells Alex for the first time she knew that deep down inside, she knew Austin was cheating. And then she recalls a time when they were getting their child's first haircut. They went to the hair salon, barbershop, or wherever they went, right? And there was some fans there, but she was also taking photos of their child's first haircut. So she's taking photos and then her phone dies. And immediately she saw this text message came through that started with, it was a long text message that started with, if you really loved your wife, you wouldn't be ... And Austin's assistant was there and he looked at Austin. Austin grabbed the phone, and Catherine, she says if she can go back, she always thinks like she really wanted to know what that said. She wished she would have ran to the bathroom. She always looks back on that day because she really wanted to know. Catherine says she asked Austin who was that and he wouldn't respond. Then she waited until they got into the car, but the kids were in the car and that was his excuse, like, hey, don't fight in front of the kids. So then she waited till they got to the house and then she started yelling and screaming at him like, who was that? She goes on to say she ended up leaving the house. She took a drive to a park and she had a conversation with God. She goes on to say she believes in Christ. She believes in God. She's just not, confined to a certain religion. She explains this moment of knowing that she needed to be strong. She knew she was pregnant. She knew it was with the boy who she wanted to name Steele. As a result of her conversation with God, she shares with us that she felt like the end game at that moment while she was pregnant was to go home. And yes, she felt numb, but she wanted to be strong and just go on pretending like nothing happened, at least for that moment, because she knew that she was pregnant and she really wanted to focus on giving birth and wanted to focus on her kids and her family, and that she would figure out things later, but she knew at that moment that was her response. That was the action she was going to take at that moment. Catherine does share that was the longest time Austin and her, since they had met each other, they haven't spoken. So it was like 2 or 3 days. So eventually, after those 2 to 3 days, they end up meeting in the middle of the street. She gets into his car. He shares who this woman is. I guess this woman has came up before, and he had explained her away to Catherine as some lady who he's trying to teach Snapchat to. Catherine was like, the lies weren't really adding up. Austin was honest about who she was for the very first time in that moment. And what was interesting is that Catherine does share that even though she didn't express this to Austin, at the time she was thinking like she could forgive him if he was genuinely sorry. So after this, they knew there was a baby on the way, and they decided to kind of reconcile their relationship, that they were going to take a trip to Hawaii. And that's when Catherine posted that she was pregnant. I mean, so far listening to this story, this all sounds like, from the outside looking in, I would have left him. But, everyone goes through their own stuff. So yes, Catherine has a lot of things I wish that she would have discussed in this interview, like her business, her failed business. And there was a lot of interesting things about that. But anyways, so they go to Hawaii to reconcile their relationship. She posts that she's pregnant again. And that's when Alex, she takes a pause and she's like, this whole entire time, Catherine, I've been hearing that, you've been asking Austin through these stories that you're sharing to me on how can we fix this? How can we fix this? And it just sounds like, you met, you got pregnant, and as soon as the rumors started to hit, you just kind of, you felt numbed. As soon as your business started to be successful, you didn't really know how to handle it. Even when you guys were growing financially, you guys still didn't even have like that proper conversation. And the whole reason why Alex was mentioning this is because she's like, are you okay? Because it just felt like you were along for the ride. Like it just felt like you went through this, but you weren't really present. It was like you were outside of your body. And Catherine does agree with Alex. And then Alex jumps back to the car incident where Austin is admitting, yes, I did cheat on you, even though he doesn't say those words. He never said it. But he does admit to knowing this woman, right? And what was crazy was that Alex, she did ask Catherine, was Austin ever apologetic? And that's when Catherine, she just looked at Alex and was like, I never felt like Austin was ever apologetic. And that's when we learned that Catherine actually never heard the words, I cheated. I cheated on you, not until a week before, whenever she interviewed with Call Her Daddy, which is crazy to me. So Alex is like, why do you think he finally admitted and said those words now, I cheated? Which is crazy to me because the entire time he's never said those words, I cheated, which means he never fully took accountability, which is not shocking, and tried to dance around it. Catherine goes on to say that hearing those words, I cheated, felt so healing for her. And then Catherine, after being asked by Alex, is it true that you said that it was okay that he could cheat on you as long as he doesn't embarrass you? And Catherine, she teared up. And honestly, y'all, on a human to human level, I was kind of crying with her a little bit because I felt bad because she's like, I would never say that. Like I would never raise my children to then teach them that like it's okay to cheat on your spouse. And it just felt like a real moment. So if you want to watch, I timestamped it because I love genuine moments, and this felt like a genuine moment. Their channel felt fake, but this felt like a genuine response. So the timestamp is 48 minutes and 20 seconds, okay? And so yeah, on a human to human level, it got tearied, and I just I felt for her so bad. And then Catherine gets asked, how many women do you think Austin cheated on you with? And Catherine does respond that she knows 3 for sure. And then Alex does bring up the rumor, is it 20? Because there's rumors that there's 20 women. And Catherine doesn't deny it. She's like, there could be, but she knows for sure 3 women that she knows specifically that he cheated on her with. So then we start diving into the rumors. So Alex, she does ask about the Tana story. If you don't know Tana Mojo, she mentioned publicly that she covered for Austin one time when there was a lip liner in his Lamborghini. Catherine's like, who is this? Who, whose lip gloss is this? And that's when Tana admitted or lied for Austin and said that it was hers. And Catherine goes, she doesn't understand why Tana wouldn't have just talked to her privately about it. She thought it was messed up that Tana decided to bring it to the public. And I bet you whenever Tana's next podcast is, she's going to make a public apology about that because I don't know. I just feel like that's a Tana move. Anyways, another rumor Alex asked to verify whether it's true or not was the nannies. So there's a rumor that Austin, he will hire nannies so that way he could hook up with them. And Catherine goes, well, that's false because we don't have any nannies. I'm it. So that rumor is false. But this rumor ends up being true. The rumor of Austin bringing his mistress to a charity event that his family, including his kids, were at. What? Yes, this is true. Catherine confirms that Austin did in fact bring, the text message I explained earlier that Catherine saw? Yeah, he brought that mistress to a charity event. And then, of course, is lying about it on the internet. But Catherine does confirm that is true and that even years later, she spoke to one of Austin's family members that also confirmed that to be true. And she was even upset that they even knew about, Austin's mistress and she didn't. But, I guess, that's his family member. So I guess I wouldn't think that they would be honest with Catherine, Catherine also confirms that she was not intimate with Austin for 4 or 5 years because of his cheating. Like, she goes on to say that her body is a temple and that she felt that she would try after his cheating. She would try to fix things. But, it just wasn't working out. Like, after the last child, she said that was it. They were done. She wasn't intimate with her husband for 4 or 5 years. She confirms that to be the truth, and it all had to do with his cheating. Catherine does share that when they moved into that mansion, she felt like, okay, they can start things over. They can actually be the family that they portray to be online, but it didn't work out because Austin still cheated anyways. Alex was bringing in all the hardcore questions because she even goes into, during that time, did Austin ever try to pursue you? And Catherine goes, no, and that's when I knew he was cheating on me. So during those 4 to 5 years, they didn't have intimacy and he never pursued it. And that's when she knew that he was also cheating on her. So I guess you can kind of say, like, Catherine does admit that she knew. So I guess all those rumors about, oh, there's no way she doesn't know. I guess, she admits that she did know. So it's kind of like, yes, she didn't know at the beginning, but after she knew, she still stayed. It's pretty much what I gathered from this interview. Catherine does state that she does take accountability. Now, I don't agree with her because she states that she didn't pursue her husband either during those years. And I don't blame her for that because if my husband is cheating, I'm not going to want to be with him at all or pursue him whatsoever. But I do understand where Catherine says that she does take some accountability when it comes to her not going to therapy. Like, she questions, why didn't she bring it to Austin to go seek therapy or couples counseling, So she does blame herself for that. She even goes on to say that she could have handled everything else in their marriage, but she could not handle the cheating. And that's when Alex mentions that this must have been hard to keep all to yourself. Why did you do that? Like, why didn't you confide in anyone? And Catherine makes it abundantly clear that it had nothing to do with her feeling like she couldn't talk to anyone. She just didn't want, she knew the moment she talked to a family member or her friend, they would have a different perception of Austin. And she didn't want to put that out into the universe if they were going to make their relationship work. So that's when Alex, she does ask, when did you decide that you were going to leave Austin? After they moved out of that big mansion, they got a rental. Catherine, she decided to go on a trip or a retreat in Brazil with her dad and someone else. Long story short, from this retreat, she felt healed. She felt strong enough to know what she wants and to just say it. And she knew that she just needed to say it. So when Austin picked her up from the airport, she said, hey, like, I know you haven't been happy for a while. I haven't been happy for a while. We should get a divorce. And she's like, Austin was like, okay, sure. Like nothing. And he even mentioned in that same breath of, oh yeah, there's a house like that's, you know, up for sale down the street or for rent down the street, whatever. I'll move in there. And she was like, oh, okay, cool. And as far as them coming out with statements, Catherine says that she didn't want to come out with a joint video of them separating because she knew that if Austin still couldn't be honest with her, hey, I cheated, that's why we're, you know, our marriage is over. She knew that if Austin couldn't be honest with her, like, why would she make a video? Because he's not going to be honest to the world. And so Austin really wanted to make a video. Now, here comes the illegal recording. So follow me here with this. Austin tells Catherine, hey, I'm going to come out with a video telling the world that we are separating, how we're not going to be together anymore. But I want to send you the video first to see what you think. So Catherine watches this video and she's like, this video is like social suicide. This video is... the world is going to call you a liar. Everyone's already saying that you're cheating on me, so you might as well just admit it. Like, this is not a good video. And so Catherine told Austin that she didn't like the video. Now, Catherine says that she felt like this was all on purpose. She felt like Austin never actually intended on putting out that video. She felt as if Austin sent her that video so he could record her saying that she did not like this video. Don't put this video out. And that's what he did. He illegally recorded Catherine and allegedly illegally recorded Catherine. Previous allegedlys that I forgot recorded Catherine. So that way he could use it for later saying, see guys, you know, whatever lie that he's telling the public, he could say, see guys, Catherine didn't want me to put out this video. Here's a recording. And, you know, Catherine has been told that she could sue him for this, but, you know, she knew Austin would be like, look, we filmed content for years. She knew that he would come up with some lie. So she didn't even want to go that route anyways, because he's the father of her kids. But it was just strange to me that Austin, regardless, you know, if they recorded for a living, it was strange to me that he would record that. That's strange. So it does sound like he was trying to set her up. Now, speaking of setting her up, we're going to talk about the ayahuasca, if that's how you pronounce it. Honestly, y'all, I just heard about this today. So Catherine has been having these ayahuasca ceremonies, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And, you know, it's something that a family member recommended to her, and she loves going on these journeys, right? And Austin had came out recently in like 1,000,001 Snapchats after he learned that Catherine was coming out with a book. To do some damage to Catherine, he stated that Catherine was having these ayahuasca ceremonies with their children and even having children involved. And long story short, Catherine goes, that's not the case. He knows how much going on these journeys mean to me. And so it's just another jab for him to use. But Catherine does state that her children is never there when she has these ceremonies, and that it's just all to do damage towards her. Also, in Austin's Snapchats that he came out recently, he stated that Catherine stopped being intimate with him because she believed that she was like incarcerated Virgin Mary, he also stated that Catherine also wanted to turn him into a mermaid. So I don't know if you guys remember when Catherine, she came out with the video. I actually covered this 4 years ago. She came out with a video about going through a past life regression. And so I think Austin was trying to use, a lot of people didn't get this video, including me. I had to watch it 3 times, I think, to make a video on it. And because Catherine talked about dreams, and I don't know, she sounded a little bit off. I don't know. There's a lot of things in that video that I necessarily don't believe in, but Catherine does. And so I think Austin was trying to pull anything that people may view as insane from that video and to try to pull it into something that he could use to jab Catherine in the back now. Catherine goes, no, I was never trying to turn Austin into a mermaid. I simply was, there was one time where we went to Hawaii and we did these little skits and I dressed him up as a mermaid or whatever. But she's like, no, like this is all just to make me sound crazy, because Catherine does believe in symbolism. She believes if she has a bad dream, that's a symbol of some kind that means something. Catherine is, spiritual in those ways. So he tried to use that to his own advantage. And then Alex, she closes the interview with 2 more things. She mentions, she asks Catherine, well, how is the relationship with Austin and his new girlfriend with the kids? I believe his girlfriend's name is Alexis. And Catherine does talk about her current partner, Igor, which she did meet in Brazil at that retreat. So there is a conversation, Catherine cheated on her husband. But Catherine, she lays out the timeline of what happened. She says the relationship was over, years ago, basically, essentially, right? But she does lay out a timeline for us so we can understand what exactly happened and how she met her husband, or not her husband, but her current partner. But Catherine, she was very respectful. She said that, she listens to what her kids say about Austin's new partner, and they'll be like, oh, hey, I had fun with Alexis and we did this. So from this interview, I gather that she likes Alexis and she kind of just likes their separate lives. She's happy with her life, with her partner, and she's also seems to be happy for Austin's life with his new partner as well. And then Alex goes, is there anything you want to say to the Ace family? Any last words you want to say, closing statements? And that's when Catherine says, is that forgiveness is key. So there you have it. That was the interview. I wasn't shocked by anything that I heard, but I love the fact that we were finally getting the honesty that we've been asking for years. It's nice to also, I feel like a lot of people are healed as well on the opposite side of the screen. We're healed because now we already knew, but we just need that confirmation. Feel me? So this was a very interesting interview. I hope her book does extremely well. And I'm curious to what Austin's response to all this is. We all know he's a liar. He's been lying for years. It's just, that's who Austin is. And I bet you if Catherine does end up coming back on social media, she's going to end up thriving, I feel like. I feel like there's no, who cares about Austin? The only time people are going to care about Austin, in my opinion, is if, he's filming something with his kids, sadly to say. But what are your thoughts? I love this interview. I love that Alex asked all the hardcore questions and she didn't hold back. So yeah, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you soon on the next video. Bye, guys.